Jar of Heart by Gilby, July 4th. Janice always knew when Thomas was lying. His exaggerated movements from all those acting classes and community theater performances may have been great at projecting on stage, but it made his host have tells that were big enough to spot without much effort. And even when Thomas was trying, which was largely ineffective but cute to watch, nothing could stop that metaphorical butterflies in the stomach feeling. Words are only worth their weight in actions, and involuntary, gut-wrenching reactions told the truth more clearly than any memorized monologue. However, that feeling normally didn't come with Janice finding his head hitting the ceiling. Thomas must have told a real whopper of deceit this time. He could have dealt with it in silence. He really could have. But then one of the others could tell something was up and was knocking on his door. He'd be lying to himself if he didn't say he got some delight from seeing that preciously horrified, tiny face staring up at him. It made him feel butterflies in his own non-corporeal stomach in a way that just felt delicious. "Well, aren't you just adorable?" he cooed smoothly when he saw exactly who it was. "I could just eat you up." Let me get this straight. Even though all of us are gay, Logan chose to ignore Virgil's interpretation and continued, "You're telling me Janice is a Leviathan. He's kidnapped a shrunken Patton and put him in a jar." "That's exactly it," Roman declared. "Are you joining us on this rescue mission or not?" "You two have fun on your little fantastical adventure," Logan said coolly as he shuffled through his flashcards to hold up one particularly pointed one. Pics or it didn't happen. Then he promptly slammed the door in Virgil and Roman's baffled faces. There was banging on the door again. "I believe I already made my intentions of staying behind perfectly clear," Logan said to the knocking with more than a hint of annoyance in his tone. "Where do you think he got the jar, Lo?" He was about to call back that he didn't care, until his brain caught up to what was probably the most logical conclusion. "No," he breathed. "That's right, Pocket Protector. Your precious pectin was perilously procured for picking up Patton." "How do you live with yourself, Princey? Seriously, do you practice being that extra, or does it just come naturally?" The door opened, and a stoic figure stood before them. "If Patton was placed in a crofter's jar," Logan spoke lowly before them, "I will be very put out." Patton wiped his finger over a small stain on the jar and licked it. Raspberry. Yummy. The curved glass around him distorted his point of view more than a little bit, in particular the oblong yellow eye that was fixated upon him at present. He smiled up at it anyway. "You know, kiddo, Logan's going to be pretty upset that you used his jam jar without asking him." Hysterical, given the fact that I'm upset with him for not intervening when Thomas needed him. "So, why am I here?" "Well, you answered the door first." Janice's pupil narrowed, but his smile grew wider. "Poor little Patton. You should have just left well enough alone." "I was worried about you." That nearly wiped the smirk off the giant's face. "Don't lie to me," he hissed. But morality stared back at him with steely clarity through the translucent casing. "You know I'm not." "Is someone going to tell me how this even occurred?" Logan asked as they crossed through the threshold of the imagination. Roman glared at Virgil, who averted his eyes. "I panicked. That's one way of putting it," Roman cut him off with a scoff. "Cowardly, but a way if you want to call it one." "Shut up." "In spite of me being the main guardian of the brain cell, may I remind both of you that I am not a mind reader," Logan interjected before their squabbling could go on. "What happened?" "Thomas hasn't told a lie like that in years," Patton continued. "That amount of self-preservation can't be good for you." "Oh, I don't know what you could be talking about." Janice rolled both of his eyes as he toyed with the jar holding his captive in his hand. "I feel absolutely fantastic being an enormous gargantuan. It makes me feel like I'm finally in power and control." "I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not." Janice paused. He couldn't either. "Well, that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever." Logan raised an eyebrow. I don't think there's a single person who knows Thomas at this stage of his life who he would feel obligated to say such a falsehood such as that. Virgil bit his lip, but it was Roman who sighed and ran his fingers through his hair. To be the slightest bit fair to anxiety, no opportunity is worth a lie to the truth of who you are, Virgil mumbled in resignation. That's just the fact of the matter, right, Lo? Not just the truth, but the heart as well. Logan nodded solemnly, which is most likely why Janice has Patton. Janice's absent-minded baritone hummed rumbling vibrations through the jar container that gave Patton goosebumps in a not entirely unpleasant way. The stereotype of a snake oil salesman definitely played a part in creating the look and speech Thomas devised for him, but it also made the dark side's voice incredibly silky. After a stanza, the light side recognized the song as well. Who do you think you are? Running round leaving scars, collecting your jar of hearts, tearing love apart. You're gonna catch a cold, Patton's reedy voice sang softly back, from the ice inside your soul. Janice and the vibrations stopped cold as he saw Patton's palm press against the glass, and his minuscule bespectacled eyes looking up at him with shining clarity. I think someone needs a hug. They heard them before they saw them. The jar was discarded on the ground, while Janice, at his normal size, with his back facing the rescue party, was weeping into Patton's embrace. Patton rubbed his back with his left hand and shooed the others away with his right. They'd talk about this with Thomas later.